If you're a commercial embroiderer and you have a multi-needle machine that has the capacity of doing a finished hat, you have to look at a design and determine how you're going to digitize it based on whether it is flat or whether it's on a cap, because the rules do change. And it's always best to think ahead as a digitizer and look at a design and think ahead so that you are going to modify or edit that design so it can be run both ways. And that's what we're going to do with this design. We're going to look at it from flat to cap, and we'll digitize it one way, do a quick edit, and it'll run the other way just as well. Did you know that 90% of successful embroidery comes down to how well the design is made? If you're new and don't understand how designs actually work, you're going to keep messing up. You'll be wasting time, you'll be wasting thread, and ruining good fabric. That's why we made the 101 Digitizing course. It's free, it's fast, and it gives you the core theory every embroiderer needs. Even if you never plan to digitize, this is the stuff you have to know if you want clean, professional results. So get started today by clicking the link in the description. Now, I've called up the artwork into the Embroidery Legacy digitizer, and the first thing I'm going to do is take a look at the size. It's always best to resize your artwork first and digitize it at the requested size that the customer is asking. So I'm going to select the backdrop, and I'm going to go to inches so I can see the overall height of the design is 3.44. Now, they wanted this to run on a finish hat as well as a flat surface. And with finish hats, you do have a crown and a peak, and the peak actually is, touching the crown, and you always want to move from the peak up to the top. And you also want to move from the center of the cap, the center seam, either side out. So it's a bottom up, inside out rule. But usually with regular flat embroidery, you're not necessarily looking at that bottom up, inside out. You're looking at identifying the areas with the most coverage. You want to basically digitize your larger fill areas first so that they reduce the movement on the actual fabric from shifting, and then you do the smaller areas afterwards. So with this design here, we have a bit of a dilemma, because even though it looks fairly simple as far as the design is concerned, it has these two colors that are overlapping each other, and then it has lettering that is kind of perfectly placed and has to line up perfectly as well. So this one's going to be a little bit of an adjustment, not much, but I'm going to do it for a cap, and then I'll adjust it for a flat surface afterwards. So first thing is, they want this to be approximately 2.25 inches in height for the hat. And I'm just going to scale it to the size, and then I'm going to take the artwork and I'm going to reduce the opacity. And I might not do it this much normally, but because I'm teaching this in a video and you're seeing it on screen, I want to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to really try to dim this down a little bit so that you can see actually what's happening on the screen. Now that this is in place, I can click off of that object, and I'm going to go to a 3:1 scale real quick. There's 3:1. If you watch my theory on digitizing, you know I like to digitize at set scales. So I'm going to go to 6:1, and basically the amount of, design that you see on screen will be a direct result of how big your monitor is. If you're digitizing on a laptop with a very small monitor, then this is going to look much larger. If you have a 32-inch monitor, this is going to look pretty small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this red fill first, and I'm going to try to digitize that so that I do this next. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the word paving. I am going to switch the order afterwards, but I'm going to do this word paving from the inside moving out, connecting it, because these are all, the kerning is nice and close together at 6:1. And then after I've done that, I'm going to do this fill, and I'm going to go from the bottom up, and then I'll outline it, and then I'll go from the bottom up and outline it here as well. So I'm going to try to keep everything nice and smooth and all my stitches going in one direction, moving from the bottom up as I move forward. So let's get started. I'm going to pan over, which I can do with my shift key. I'm just panning right over, and I'm going to start to digitize this letter A. Now I'm just going to grab my widget, and I'm going to choose my classic satin stitch, and I have my points right here. I'm going to go from this point here, and I'm going to come right up to here, and then if I do hold the shift key down, it'll give me a perfectly straight line which is really, really handy, but that gives me the object right there. There is pull comp already on this, so I'm going to just grab that color real quick and change this to a lighter color on screen so we can see what's happening. And then I'm going to continue to digitize the design in that color. So now this one here, I'm going to cut it a little bit into the object because I need to adjust my pull comp. The actual compensation is being addressed as far as pull compensation, but the push within a design, that is something that I do need to adjust for manually. So I'm going to come right here like this and do that piece. Now here it is going to be closest point, so I could drop a stitch in between these two. So if I want to drop a stitch, I'm just going to put a point here. I'm going to not try to connect at the bottom, so I'm going to try to come up at least one point, hit enter, and I can see now that it's dropped that point there. So I'm just going to grab this object right here, and I'm going to hit the Q key, and I'm going to try to bring that up just so that I cross over, not at the bottom. This is such small text that I really want to make sure that everything almost disappears. So I'm in this situation, coming up a little stitch is going to give me a better result. I'm going to hit the 2 key on my keyboard because I love hotkeys. That's going to give me my classic satin again. And now I'm going to do this object here. And then I do have my snap to anchor on. We have a really cool tool called snap to anchor, which I try to avoid. If I see an anchor come up like I do here, I go to the other side. The snap to anchor works really, really well. But if you do have it on, so I'm going to turn it off, now I can continue on this point and it won't actually snap to that anchor and create one object. So sometimes I leave it on, sometimes I leave it off. I'm going to hit that number 1 and I'm going to again come here and just drop a stitch into that object. Again, this is a corporate design, so I'm going to hit the Q and bring this down just a little bit so I can see how it crosses over. When I do commercial digitizing, and I know this is being run for a client, a customer, I do really try to put that extra little bit of effort into hiding stitches and making sure that the logo looks as clean, because a corporate identity, that is very precious to the business owner, and you want to try to make sure you keep things as perfect as possible. So I'm going to now hit that shift key, and I'm just going to go here and hit enter. And again, I'm going to hit that 1 and I'm going to cross over into that object. That time it crossed over perfectly. I didn't have to move my nodes at all. And I'm going to just come here and do this and hit that shift again and come all the way over to here, and then come this point right over to here and here to here, and then here right over to here, and hit that shift. Let's actually go, I'm going to just undo that because I want to make sure that I am in that space. I'm going to come right here. So I want to put a point down here, a point down right here. I'm going to hit that shift so that it gives me a perfectly straight line. And I'm going to go right here and hit enter. Then I'm going to go back to 1 and I'm going to cross right over in the center there. And then I'll do this little piece right here. So back to my classic satin, and hitting the shift will give me a perfectly straight line. And then I'm going to go straight, and I'm going to do a little curve here, and straight, and straight, and go back to a curve. Actually, I do not want to do that. I'm going to go straight, and let's just come here, and straight, and go into a curve, and then come straight into this object right here, and hit enter. So there we go. Now, even though these look like they're all touching, remember that there is the pull compensation on in this. And I am going to go in right now, it's on cotton, but I am going to go in and change the underlay on these small letters. But I'll wait till I finish everything first before I do. So now that I have that bottom piece of text done, now I'm going to change the color and I'm going to do this object here. But I'm going to do the outside of the object first. So I'm going to choose this input right here, which is called a steel. And I'm going to put this object right about here. And I'm going to come here and do straights and then I'm going to go right around the outside of this, right to this point here. Here, straight, curve, and then a straight, and then a straight, curve, straight. I'm going to just pan very quickly using my pan, and I'm going to come here, curve, straight, and then I'm going to straight, and I'm going to curve all the way around the outside just like this. And there I use the auto pan feature. The EL software has the ability to auto pan as well as the ability to pan manually. And I do want one extra point in there, so I'm just going to go there and I'll go straight and straight. So that's going to give me that object right there. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come across to this side here, and I'm going to adjust that width. So right now, that does not look good. We know it doesn't, so I'm going to come in here, select that object. I'm going to do a 1 millimeter stitch and see how thin it looks. That actually looks pretty good. And I'm going to go to the inset of this because it is a a stitch that is a fixed width satin, and I'm going to take it to the inside area just like this, so it's going to be right up to the line. So that way I know that my object there is actually done. I'm going to now take my fill stitch, and I'm going to do a little bit of reverse digitizing because I know that I want to have some underlay. I need some underlay here. I'm going to do a horizontal stitch because horizontal stitches work really well on finished caps. They tend to not distort the cap. They also work well on things like golf shirts. If this runs on a golf shirt, I like to try to keep horizontal stitches going because of the hills and valleys of the actual material itself. The PK knit is milled with straight lines on it. It's kind of sewn on the bias. So I'm going to come in here now and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to a run stitch and I'm going to start right here and I'm going to just run, run, run. And now I'm going to do some manual stitches back and forth. And I know this is taking a little bit of extra time, but this is kind of what I do, old school method. I'm outlining first, putting some little zigzags back and forth so that when these areas do separate, I will not see the separation of the actual fill. And keep in mind right now, this is obviously going to be right on top of the stitches, but it's going to end up being underneath afterwards when I change the sequence of this object. So there is my underlay that I put down, and let's just backspace and put that one right there. Hit enter. Now that I have that underlay, I'm going to do a fill stitch. And when I do my fill stitch, I'm going to take my brush, do my fill, and I'm going to adjust for my push and pull compensation, and I'm using that outline that I created as my guide for the pull comp. So that is why I kind of, since software has advanced so much in the recent years of being able to resequence objects and kind of digitize something and then be able to just change the order of it, I've kind of changed I haven't changed my theory, but I've changed some of the ways that I actually create my designs because now it's so easy to edit. And then I'm going to do a 0 angle. Keep in mind if I hit the shift key, there's 180. That's perfectly straight angle. Hit enter, and that is done. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to now go to my sequence view, and I'm going to take this object here, and I'm going to move it down in the order, so it's going to be at the very end. So I should, if I look at this, here is my thing. I have a start here, and I have a stop, and then I'm going to go to my next object, and I'm going to do the same thing. Let's just grab that object, and I'm going to start at the bottom right here. So there, I'm going to get rid of that little trim. I stopped at the top right here, and now I'm going to, so it's going from the bottom up, and now if I look at the next object, it should come here and hit this, and I should see that I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to end over here. So I've changed all the sewing orders so that everything is going to, continue to do one continuous pass of thread. And now I'm going to go to a run stitch, and I'm just going to run right here through this center area. And I don't really have to worry about that because there is going to be a gray fill stitch. I'm going to have another fill stitch here that's going to be bordered by a 1mm border, so I know this is going to fall underneath. Now I'm going to do the same kind of reverse thinking, where I'm going to go in and I'm going to go back to my fixed width steel, and I'm going to go here, and I'll probably, it doesn't matter, it's going to change the order anyways, but I'm going to do one mark here. I hit that shift key, it gives me a perfectly straight line. Come over here, perfectly straight line, enter, enter, and then I'm going to come here and grab that last piece that I did. And let's make those same changes. Let's make this a 1mm width. So there it is, a thinner stitch. Let's make this on the inset, again, 100% on the inside. So now I know that that is going to be here. If I don't like the way this corner is handling, that is the amazing part about doing the corners. I can actually tell it to do a sharp corner. I want to do auto, and there it kind of fixed the corner. But if I want to see none, let's try this. There's none, and now it gave me the turn I'm looking for. We have advanced cornering. If you don't like the way the software is adjusting something, once you get used to the features in the software, you can adjust the corners however you like to see them actually do. So now I'm going to go back to my run stitch, and I know I'm going to start kind of here because this line's going across. So I am going to start here, and I'm going to put this little zigzag back and forth again. This is my underlay that is going to make sure that when those stitches separate, because the fill stitch is going this direction, this one here, I need some zigzags because they are going to pull apart. This is going to go this direction, and then I'm going to come back to here. There it's outlined, and now I'm going to go to my fill, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to come in and exaggerate the direction of the stitch, and I'm going to cut it short in the opposite direction. So I'm adjusting for my push and pull. I'm going to hold the shift key down and make sure that it is at a 180. There we go. And I'm going to make sure that I start right down here, and I'm going to stop up there. Now, it doesn't really matter at this point because I know that I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to grab this object here, and I'm just going to move it down a couple places in the sewing order. And now I know when I look at this one here and I hit the Q key, it starts and it finishes in the same place. And then if I go to the next object, it's going to, again, start here, and let's finish. Actually, I might want to finish up here. And then if I look at this object here, I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to see that that one is going to start over here and finish right down over here. So there I have all of my objects finished. That one's done. Now I can go back to my previous color, which is going to be, if I just look here, I can see this is the pumpkin. So if I want to come here on mine, I can see that I'm going to grab the same pumpkin color, but I'm going to escape. Let's get out of that first. I'm going to hit the pumpkin, and now I can do this object. Now I'm going to turn the 3D off for a second, and I'm going to come right over here, and let's grab this one, do the same thing. I'm going to do it kind of in a reverse order. So I'm going to grab that steel stitch, and I'm going to go around the outside. Let's put one point right here, and I can pan. I'm going to put a point right here. I can pan over, point right over here. Love my crosshairs. I've identified my crosshair as a slightly different color so that it's easier for me to see. Hit that shift key so that I have a straight line. Come all the way up to the top point here. Come all the way down to here so that I hit right into that corner that I want. And I'm going to go right to there, hit that enter button, and now I'm going to select that. And what I'm going to do is, when I select it, I'm going to tell it to close the shape. So I'm going to close the shape on that. Now, if I look here at the 3D, again, that is way too thick, so we're going to take that, make it the same 1mm width, and we're going to do the same thing, go on the inset value so that it's all the way on the inside. Again, if I don't like the way it's handling any of the corners, so if I see that the corners here are kind of messing up, I can always go in and I can do the same thing where I can say I want to have, let's do here a standard auto turn, and let's do auto right here and see what happens. So there's auto. That actually gave me a little bit of a mitered corner in there. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to change this one to a, actually let's come back over here. I'm going to keep this as a none. And there we go. That turned out perfectly. So there's all of my objects nice and clean. And again, I did that so that I'd have a guideline. So I am going to go in now and do the exact same thing. I'm going to make sure I start at the bottom right here, but I'm going to turn on my run stitch. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do some little runs back and forth, come up to here, outlining this, do some straight back and forth here, and that's giving me my zigzags. Make sure that I just pan up, come here, come right here, and hit enter. Now I'm going to go to my fill, and I'm going to do the same thing, starting here, and let's go right here, and let's go right to here, come across, cutting short, exaggerating the direction, adjusting for the push and pull on either side, come into this side a little bit here, back down, over to here, and actually I want to change that one a little bit, add a little bit more pull comp, enter, and hit that shift, and there we go. Let's go right to this point and enter, and let's start right over here. Okay, so now, again, same thing. I'm just going to take that object that I digitized. So there is that one that I did, and I did it first, but I want to move it down in the order. And then I'm just going to check all of my paths so that I know that I started here and I stopped over here. That's fine. Then I want to make sure that I check my next path. I started here. I'm going to stop right over, let's say, in here. And then I'm going to check my next path. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to end up starting right over here so that I get rid of that trim. And I'm going to stop right over here so that it's closest point. And now I'm going to go to a run stitch, and I'm just going to go drop a stitch in there, come into that one, and let's then just make sure that I hit this. Let's go right over to this one, move it all the way up so that that kind of disappears. Perfect. And now I can just continue to digitize this, and I have very, very few trims. Going to go back to a classic satin, going to cut short the open ends. I can come in, hit that shift, and then I'm going to go straight. I'm going to start curving around here, curve, and then straight, and then straight, come around here and curve, straight, and do this piece here, hit enter. I'm going to go back to a run, and I'm going to just drop a stitch right in between so I know that it doesn't connect at the very top. I like to keep that clean whenever I possibly can. Let's go back to our classic satin, and I'm just going to come in and turn this nice and smoothly into this area here. And let's just come right to there, hit that enter, hit back to a run straight across, nice and clean. And then I'm going to just make sure I move out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Go back to a classic satin, and then I'm going to put a point here. I'm cutting it short a little bit, always adjusting for my push and pull. I've done this whole design at 6:1. So I'm going to come right from here to here and hit enter. And all I'm going to do on that very last object is I'm going to grab it, I'm going to hit the Q key, and I'm going to move it in a couple of stitches so that it does not tie out at the very end of the object. And now that design is done. And I'm going to do a quick walkthrough. So let's just go here and do a walkthrough on this. Make sure that it's going to run properly. So let's just see how this runs. There it's going to start. It's doing this from the inside out. It gets all the way to the end. Then it's going to come back here, does my zigzag underlay, and then it does my underlay, I guess, tatami stitches, the underlay stitches for the fill. Then it comes in and does that piece, and then it's going to go around. Now I do see that I could probably, because I did already outline it once, I could save a little bit of stitches in those fills. So if I wanted to grab those fills, I could come in here and look at my sequence view and just find those fill stitches that I did. There's one fill path there, And if I look at the properties with regards to the underlay, I could see that I really don't need a contour. I just need the other one because I did already kind of contour that. It's not a really big deal, to be honest, to have that little bit of extra stitches in there, but I might as well save as many stitches when I can. And I'm going to come in here and let's just grab that one and get rid of the contour on that one as well. So get rid of the contour on both of those. So there, that design is done. Now, I might, I think I'll be okay as far as underlay is concerned, because, it is a edge run, but if I look at it without the 3D, it's really, it should be nice and clean. Sometimes when you're talking about doing these types of letters, so if I were to grab these, I might want to change the underlay to these from a contour to a zigzag or double zigzag, so that way I can get rid of the contour and I can do like, a parallel stitch, something like that. But it really does depend on the hat. I mean, sometimes with structured hats, having an edge run works a little bit better. If I know it's a foam hat where there's going to be a lot of sinking, then edge runs can bubble out sometimes. So I know that the person that I'm doing this for, I know what type of hat they're going to be doing it with, so I'm going to leave it as a contour. And then when I save this design out, and if I do take this now and I get rid of the backdrop, so I'm just going to delete the backdrop, there is the design. It is finished. I'm going to save this design and I'll save it as a native file format and I'll call it _cap. And then after I've done that, I'm going to then edit the design so that we actually have it run for a flat as opposed to a hat. So the easiest thing to do if I want to rearrange all of my objects for this is just look at making these a little bit smaller on either side, because the very first color in this design is the lettering down here. And what I would want to do is I would want to actually move that down to the very last object. So when I see this sew now, it's going to actually do the red first, and the red is actually being done now. It's going to put it in place. Then it's going to come over here to that little piece. Then it's going to outline it, and it will right away meet up to this piece right here, do that area, and then it's going to continue on to the bottom and do that. So it's just a matter of taking that first color and resequencing it to the last object, because on a flat surface, I like to do the primary foundational objects first to secure the area and reduce the movement. If I did it the opposite way and did small little objects first and then did big fills, then it might actually start to shift those smaller objects out of place. So a little bit of common sense, because you have to realize that we are dealing with thread and fabric, and thread on the top and the bottom, which are pulling on each other, and that's why we can get distortion. So I'm looking always at how I'm moving my stitches, the direction I'm moving them, and also based on whether it's a flat or a curved surface. If you enjoyed this video and you're ready to start creating, you'll love the Embroidery Legacy software. It makes creating your own designs simple, and we've built in the expert training to guide you every step of the way. Check out the link in the description if you're ready to take the next step in your embroidery journey.